Yes, sir. Here we go with another great episode of the Ant Green Show Sports Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Greenheart, and we got the boys in the house. We got Harris, Jelanie, Kenton, Sheldon Surjue, and one of our newest guests, Sheldon Thornhill, is new on the show. Really happy to have you here, Sheldon. If you want to just let everybody know, just a little quick piece, how you feel about being here, man.
Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it. I just love chopping it up, talking about basketball, and just glad to be here. How's everybody else doing?
Yes, sir, man. It's a while to have you on, but I know everyone's happy to see you here, so we will get this episode rolling. So in today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the NBA 2022 playoffs, as well as get into some predictions for who we think which teams will go the furthest, some award predictions, and we're going to into some healthy debates. This season has really been quite the exciting season, I would say the least, but a lot of teams that we expected to go some places didn't. But we're going to jump right in. And of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure to follow the Ant Green Show on all sports outlets and as well as on all platforms. But let's get things kicked off. So, Jelanie, I know you were kind of holding back from our last episode. We'll just kind of get things kicked off. So, Jelanie, what are your thoughts about the NBA playoffs? I mean, we got 1 through 6 teams already seeded, and we're looking at the 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to give a quick recap, ladies and gentlemen, the Eastern Conference playoffs, how it looks right now, standings is the Heat are first, Bucks second, Celtics third, Philly is fourth with the Raptors fifth, and then the Bulls are sixth. Now the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, as everyone knows, is the NBA play-in, which will be happening this week, as today is April 10th. So the Cavs and Brooklyn are battling that out, as well as the Hawks Hornets. And then just to quickly, before Jelanie, you jump in, the Western Conference, we're looking at Suns number 1, Grizzlies 2, Warriors 3, Mavs and Jazz are 4. Mavs 4, Jazz 5, Nuggets are 6. And then in the play-in spot, we have T-Wolves 7, Clippers 8, Pelicans 9, and Spurs 10. Jelanie, what are you liking about the playoffs? And are you happy to see the teams in? What are your thoughts overall?
Well, starting with the Eastern Conference, I'm actually disappointed. New York really fell off the map. Compared to last season, I think they finished fourth.
Start with that. Yeah.
I'm not. Because like Thibodeau was a good coach, and New York up and coming team, but they really fell off. So I'm really really surprised. Even what's it called there? Who else we got here? Atlanta falling down all the way down to ninth. So it's really 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 surprising this year in the Eastern Conference. A lot of teams. I'm surprised going to the playoffs. Cleveland really stepped up.
Played good.
Who else we got? Yeah, Chicago, with those massive additions that they had and whatnot. So I'm really happy to see those teams. But in the West, how about the Grizzlies, man? The Grizzlies, Ja Morant is just on a tear this year. I don't know.
Grizzlies can't lose. They're playing good basketball, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they could do in the postseason.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say from last episode, the T-Wolves. That's a really surprising team this year.
Mm-hmm. I like their chemistry. I like Ant. I like Cat. D'Angelo Russell. They got a good combination. I'm gonna swing this to Sheldon Surjue on this. So Sheldon,
I just want to finish one.
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Just one more thing. So the Lakers, I'm really surprised. No, but Harris, I'm sorry, but you guys had Melo, you had Westbrook, you had AD, but I don't know. They're saying it's one of the worst super teams of all time. So for a guy that likes to build his teams and go to the finals almost every year, you guys just fall off the map. I don't know. I really want to talk about this. What really happened with LA this year? Apart from injuries, I don't know. Maybe it's a chemistry issue, but then again, you have a guy. You're paying $45 million to shoot bricks. I don't know. I think any one of us in this chat can shoot better than Westbrook, but that's just me. So I don't know. I just want to give you guys I want to ask you guys what's your take on that? I don't know.
What do you guys think, man? Anybody want to answer Jelani's? Because honestly, I don't know if this stat was accurate. Someone could quote me on this, but I saw that Russell Westbrook had more turnovers than made jump shots. Now, for an organization that's paying a man $40 million, to be exact, I have this number: 295 turnovers, 188 made jumpers in this season. Anybody got any answers for the Lake Show? Sheldon Surjue, I know. Bron.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yo, Bron did his thing, you know what I mean? He did his thing this year, that's for sure. But, ultimately, I think it's also his fault because he wanted Westbrook. He wanted the guy that can, give the points, give the rebounds, give the assists when he's not on the floor. That's what it was about. And he made a big mistake. In my opinion, he could have had DeRozan from what I understand. And I don't think DeRozan would have been as good as he is on Chicago and the Lakers, but he would have been a lot better than what Westbrook was, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think, as great as LeBron was this season, it's also his fault. And obviously, you don't want to give too many excuses, but, they were injured. I think they probably missed a combined, 40 games, between him and AD, more than that. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to give any excuses, but at the end of the day, LeBron made the mistake to add Westbrook. And that's the bottom line to me.
It looked good coming into the season, definitely on paper, and for the NBA 2K heads, which, I'm sure there's still a lot of people out there loving the matchups on 2K. But Sheldon, what do you think? Sheldon Surjue, what do you think about the playoffs? What do you think about the play-in teams? What do you think about the seeding? Are you surprised by some of the teams there? What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought that, Brooklyn would have been a little bit, I didn't think they would be in that position. I was talking to this with some of the guys I talk to sometimes, and them and the Lakers were, I think, 10th at the time. Lakers were 10th. Lakers were 11th, and Nets were 10th last week. And I was just like, wow, like LeBron and Durant, those are the guys. You know what I mean? For years, them two, were the rivals for a long time. Who's the best? And these guys are sitting in 10th and 11th place. But we knew that the Lakers are garbage from a long time ago. The Nets,
we knew that,
still winning the championship, So I think, the Nets are a scary team to play in the first round of the playoffs. Nets are a very scary team to play in the first round of the playoffs. And I heard that, Ben Simmons might come back if they're able to, pass what they're doing in the play-in. So if they pass in the play-in and then they get Simmons back, who can lock up anybody, I think he's the best on-ball defender on most big guys in the league, especially Giannis. I think that is his biggest need that.
Yeah, but it's funny you should say that, Sheldon. But you see, the thing is, when they put in Simmons, they have no chemistry, right? So it's not gonna.
But the thing is, he don't need to score. He's not gonna shoot, right? He's like probably the only All-Star ever who's not going to need to shoot more than 5 times a game, between Durant and Irving. You know what I mean? They don't let those two go off. And, he's just there to lock up and to facilitate in transition. You know what I mean? So even if he came off the bench, I don't know if he's going to want to, but he's just going to, the Nets are going to be scary, I think, if they can get through the play-in.
Yeah.
That's
out west.
Yeah, out west. Go ahead.
Out west, I would say my two sleepers are. I mean, you can't even call Memphis a sleeper anymore because they're 20-2 without Morant. So they're legit, and I think Dallas is going to get. I think Luka's ready. He had a very hard test his first 2 years. He exceeded, what he did, even though he lost against the Clippers, or a super team or a very, very, very good team. He lost against them, but he played outstanding. And I think he doesn't have to go up against them in the first round. I think he's going up against Utah. Yeah, I think he gets past them. So I think that we got to watch out for them. But as I said, I have Milwaukee repeating this year unless Phoenix can. I have the Bucks. I think Giannis is early. Too dominant.
We're early, too dominant. Yeah, no, they're battle tested. Giannis has grown his game even more, so I could see that happening. I could respect that, but hey, we're really early, and I think the Eastern Conference is still a really strong I think, in my opinion, I think the Eastern Conference this year is stronger than the Western Conference, because if you look at 1 through 6, Heat, Bucks, Celtics, Philly, Raps, Bulls, I mean, with the exception of Brooklyn not being in the mix, you know, Giannis is not going to have a cakewalk. But I don't know. I guess if you're thinking Milwaukee's going, then, you know, that's always a good thing.
I just have a feeling, man. I just have a feeling. You know, I think that, you know, as good as Embiid has been, you know, I think he locked up the scoring title. So he's just completely unstoppable. But I think there's a level of competition that Giannis plays with, especially when, you know, he goes up against the best players, and he has a competitive advantage to me right now. You know, that's how I feel. But the Raptors, and I just mentioned Embiid. I might have to say, you know, in a few weeks from now, I feel sorry for Harden because, you know, Raptors, as I said, you know, I think the last episode you finished up by saying that they're in a kind of a rebuilding phase, but I don't feel that way. And, you know, I think Barnes is that piece in a few years that it's going to, I think he's an all-star. They're still going to have Siakam and Van Vliet, and they have a very deep team, you know, pretty deep team. So, you know, those guys, watch out. I'm telling you, man, I watch those guys. Watch out. Their defense is phenomenal. You know, they have a whole bunch of 6'8" guys. You know, Canada has, you know, I'll be honest, a soft reputation, and Masai Ujiri has used that to get only tough players. You know, so, you know, I love that.
That's
100%.
facts. Yeah, no, I agree. I love that matchup with Philly and Toronto. Toronto is looking for that as a matchup. I'll swing this over to Harris real quick, and then we'll get everyone else in. So, Harris, give me your take, man. East, West, Lakers faithful. I know you can't rock too much LeBron this postseason, but how do you feel about you know, the show that we'll be enjoying?
For sure. Just you know, sum it up quickly regarding the Lakers. Listen, love the Lakers, love LeBron. But I agree, like with what Sheldon was saying earlier, you got to hold LeBron accountable. You know, smart as a basketball IQ he is.
Thank you.
He put this team together, so you got to ride or die with it. I mean, it was a messy season, but hey, man, you're to blame. So you know, I know Plank and Frank Vogel are taking some heat, but ultimately LeBron constructed his roster, so I get it, man. So it was unfortunate, but I wanted to see him in the playoffs. Look forward to next season. So that's my take for the Lakers. Coming to the playoffs just for the Eastern Conference. I like the Nets clinching the play-in berth, and the Hornets. Actually, I got them taking the final two spots. And in the West, for the final two spots, I like going with the Spurs, and I also like going with the Timberwolves. I know we had a big segment once on Coach Pop in season one, and just how the Spurs are always a well-coached team. So I think they make the playoffs. And just in terms of going all the way, I gotta agree with Sheldon again. I think Milwaukee goes to the finals, but I think the Suns are going to be there and they're just going to be out for redemption. So I think we're going to a rematch of last year's finals, but this time I got the Suns taking it. I think just the way they lost last year, they're just like, you know, you lose and you come back like stronger. You've seen it before. Kobe lost to the Lakers in that first year. Sorry, to the Celtics. Blown out, came back, you know, got it done. So I think Booker, Paul, those guys are just like poised for it. But yeah, I think Bucks come out of the East, and I think the Suns come out in the West, and the Suns take the chip this year.
Okay, I'm keeping receipts, by the way, so I'm noting all that down from what you guys are claiming. Because you know what, I like the thoughts. We'll swing it over here, Sheldon Thornhill, and then we'll leave Kenton for last. Because I know, Kenton, you got some Ben Simmons convo that I know you're just waiting to throw out there. But let's throw it over to Sheldon Thornhill here. You know, happy to have you here, man. What do you think, man? East, West. What are your take on the teams that made it in, teams that are trying to make it in, and people who are trying to make a championship run?
Ultimately, I think it's going to be a rematch between the Bucks and Suns. I think, though, that the Suns might actually win it this time because they've improved in their depth. They've improved in their size. They have three bigs that they could throw at Giannis at any given time. They have a little bit more bench scoring with Shamet and a couple of those guys over there. And just a couple of things. I remember Sheldon saying Dallas will play Utah. That's not set in stone because Denver and actually Utah are tied right now. And tonight, I have to watch that game at 9:30. We're waiting for Denver to get the results. So if we actually win and Utah loses, we play Dallas. And I feel like we match up really well against Dallas, or we match up really well against the Warriors.
No, you don't want that. You don't want that. Yeah, Dallas, yes. but you don't want
because and I'm gonna bring it to you
confident.
guys' attention. Ever since the Warriors have been in contention, we have been one of the few teams that have beat them every single year. So we don't fear those guys over there.
Still need Murray.
We
Still
play
need
with
Murray.
a little bit of grit.
right.
We've come back twice from 3-1 deficits against hard-nosed teams. So I believe
Yeah.
we deserve a little bit of credit there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, facts.
But then from
Still need Murray.
From the perspective of the East, I feel like it's kind of open season over there. Embiid has been playing phenomenal, even though I have Joker as my MVP. And I'm not trying to be biased. We could debate this later.
We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that.
But ultimately, like I said, it could go either way. I even think people are sleeping on the Heat. The Heat are the dark horses of the East. Those guys really defend well. They have multiple guys that could kind of score in all facets.
Yep.
And it kind of reminds me of like that Detroit Pistons kind of old school basketball. So
Right.
They
Got
could,
the energy. They got guys that can lock up on
if
defense.
they could get to the Western Conference Finals, it's anything. It's open season. And another thing, we're talking about LeBron. We hold LeBron. It's crazy because we're all saying Lakers this and LeBron. Ultimately, their season was full of turmoil, but it's crazy how we still hold LeBron to a certain standard after 19 seasons. We're still blaming LeBron. The man put up 30, he averaged 30. His numbers kind of dipped in the other department, but the guy is still balling out of control. But
you can score 60 points and still lose.
Who else are we holding to this standard at 37 years of age? You know what I mean? Like,
thank you.
Jordan came back when he was 40. No one said anything about that. No one was expecting him to go out there and lead the Wizards to the NBA Finals. Come on. We're holding LeBron to another standard. And that's why he's one of the greatest of all time.
No debate in that.
Years of age, are we getting mad at because their team or he didn't lead their team into the NBA or into the NBA playoffs? There's nobody else that gets held to that same standard like LeBron.
Like you said, it's open season.
LeBron did have a few tweets though, talking about, I don't remember the exact words.
Oh, he deleted those. He deleted those real quick. Tweets. He deleted those real quick.
I don't think it should be tweets. It should be like tweaks. Like y'all need to fix that roster. Like,
but the receipts, man. It's on the internet forever. Everybody has.
Oh yeah. We keep receipts. We keep receipts here at the Ant Green Show. But no, you're right, Sheldon. People keep LeBron and Kenton. You guys are both right. We keep LeBron to high standards. Did you have any other thoughts on the playoff, Sheldon, or are we cool to swing it over to Kenton?
The only thing I would have to address about that is like they really need to get rid of the play-in between the 7th and 8th seed. To me, it doesn't make sense because the 7th seed works so hard to be in that position anyways. Okay. It would make only more sense if the 8 and 9 and 10 maybe battle it out. That's the only thing I would kind of bring up.
Yeah, the last point. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And we're going to get into that debate a little bit more after in terms of whether we think the play-in is a good idea. But I mean, definitely NBA is a business. So from a business standpoint, they're trying to stretch that out. We'll end off this here with Kenton, and then we could go back into some more debates. So Kenton, East, West, what do you like? Ben Simmons, is he coming back? I know you're on Ben Simmons' watch. You're always checking to see when he's going to put up his first jumper. What are your thoughts?
No, the last I heard, Ben Simmons was not going to be in the play-in or the first round. So I mean, I don't see them throwing him in the second round, having not played in like over a year and a half. Yeah, come play second round NBA. Come play second round playoff basketball. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think they're just procrastinating, and basically they're going to write him off for the rest of the season until next year.
Right.
And that's always, I guess that's all we can say about Ben Simmons at this point. I mean, the man wasn't injured last time we saw him, and this guy didn't play a full season. So I don't know. That sounds a little bit weird to me. The man's not injured and he's not playing in basketball. That's what he's paid. But he's still collecting the check though. Them checks are still going through. So I mean, it is what it is in terms of with Ben Simmons. I've spoke my mind on that, and I think I'm going to put that to rest until next year when we have something to actually, to critique and to discuss when it comes out of Ben Simmons. Because right now, since last year's playoffs, we haven't had nothing to discuss, and that's that is what it is. But in terms of the rest. In terms of the rest of the playoff landscape, I'm kind of going to have to go with everybody. Well, what most of the guys were saying. I think it's going to be the Bucks and the Suns in the finals again. Wow. I think Giannis is going to be able to pull it off for another year because I just feel like the Bucks on a whole they get to another level when it's playoff time, and they've also been battle tested as well. and I don't see anybody else. I mean, maybe the Nets, but at the same time, the Nets are hit and miss. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Nets in the finals, but at the same time, I just don't feel like they have what it takes to really knock off Milwaukee in a 7-game series. So I don't think that's going to happen. Philadelphia, I mean, James Harden and Joel Embiid still have a lot to prove in the playoffs. And based on what I've seen, I mean, they look better since the trade. They definitely won the trade, especially if you look at what Philadelphia got and what the Brooklyn Nets have gotten, which is not much if you factor out Ben Simmons. But I mean, based on what Philadelphia has been doing, I mean, they look better since the trade went down. But I really don't feel like they're going to be able to take it to that next level when it comes to the playoffs. I think, in the playoff basketball, the pace slows down, and I don't think that plays into what Philadelphia is trying to do, especially with a guy like James Harden. I mean, he's not, we've seen his playoff struggles. They have been well documented.
I hear that.
Yeah, in the West, like I said, in the West, I just really feel like it's wide open. But I essentially feel like Phoenix is going to come out on top, and I think we're going to see some good basketball. I mean, I think this is one of the first years in a long time that we're actually not sure. I mean, aside from my prediction, I really don't know. I mean, it could be anybody, honestly. The NBA is so loaded right now with young talent. A lot of young teams coming up. You got Memphis, Charlotte, Chicago. A lot of teams that are, a lot of new faces in the playoffs, and that's what I like to see. And I'm just hoping that it's going to be a nice playoff run throughout.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, Jelanie, you have something you want to throw in there?
Yeah. So you guys all say it's going to be a Suns Bucks rematch, but how are you guys so quick to write off Philly, given the play now that they have James Harden and whatnot? They're much more dangerous.
I just said playoff history. You know that exactly. So I mean, James Harden and Joel Embiid are at that level now where it's like, okay, we know you guys are great regular season players. You got Joel Embiid in the running for MVP. We have James Harden, who's been an MVP in previous years. We know what he's capable of. But at the same time, come playoff time, I don't feel like these guys are at the level that the Milwaukees of the world are at, that the Phoenix Suns of the world are at. I feel like them on a whole, those players individually have a lot to prove. And even Doc Rivers, I think, is on the clock as well. I mean, look what he's done. He had his runs with the Clippers. Never, he wasn't able to get over the hump. So I feel like there's a lot of question marks around Philadelphia. And
Scotty Barnes, man, this guy's gonna lock down Harden. I'm not saying he's gonna completely stop him. This guy's he's a great defender though, man. He's gonna make him work, man. Yeah,
but I wouldn't write off the Nets either. I mean, give it now that Kyrie's full time. I don't know. That team's I don't know. It can happen, right? I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me to see the Nets in the Eastern Conference Championship. You know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me at all, because at the end of the day, I still feel like Kevin Durant is a top 3 player, and you still have Kyrie Irving who can go off for 30, 40 points a night. So there's always that possibility. And if you look at, pre-NBA,
a lot of shooters on the bench
before the season started, we had, the Nets were considered, a lot to get to the NBA Finals.
Right.
Nets and Lakers, everyone had.
Yeah.
It depends on how the dominoes fall, though, because let's just say the Nets make it to the second round and the Raptors make it to the second round and they face each other. Kyrie can't play. Can't play in those away games.
It's still,
and that becomes a factor.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing about Thibault. Thibault can't play if they say Toronto plays.
That's what I'm saying. So there's multiple variables that come into play. So it really comes down to the same way the Suns kind of made it last year. I'm sorry to say, for any Sun fan that may be listening to this, but you guys made it to the finals because a lot of teams were injured last year. And I'm not saying that with disrespect, because they came back now with the intent to become contenders, and I believe they are contenders this year. They're the favorites. To me, they are the clear-cut favorites. The only one I see kind of beating them might be Embiid, or might be like we're saying Giannis, because Giannis, he really has the ability to take over the game in all factors.
2 ways,
rebounding, defense, getting everybody involved. He really gets everybody into their spots. So it ultimately comes down to who's the healthiest and where do you end up? Who do you position up with?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And no, that's it, man. This playoffs is going to be interesting. A lot of us have already kind of written off most teams and looking at that same finals. We're jumping right here now, ladies and gentlemen, into our courtside talks. Again, if you haven't followed the Ant Green Show, please make sure to follow us on all social media. But now for the courtside talks, guys. Really healthy debate that I'm sure everyone's been waiting to get to, the MVP discussion. We have a Denver Nugget in the building, so I don't want to say too much. I don't want to say too much about the player that will be brought up, but I'm just gonna leave this open floor, guys. Do you think that Joker has done enough to win back-to-back MVP titles, or has Embiid taken his game to the next level?
Where's that Drake back-to-back?
Jump in.
I'm going to say quickly, I really think you look at what Jokic has done, and that's not taking anything away. I mean, at one point I even had LeBron. I mean, even though he's not even in the playoffs, I mean, I felt LeBron did enough to justify an MVP consideration. But I mean, you look at what Jokic has done without Jamal Murray. This guy's top 10 in rebounds, assists, points, player efficiency. I mean, you look at that Denver Nuggets team, and you take Jokic off that team. Like, what are they? Like, are they even like a 10 seed? Really? Like, look at that roster. Half those guys are G League players.
They're not bad.
You know what I mean?
The Lakers, same thing.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, but you look at the Denver Nuggets, and sometimes like I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, okay, who's this guy? Who's this dude? You know what I mean?
It's almost like an equivalent, a Brooklyn roster equivalent,
honestly. And
random bag, yeah.
And you look at what Jokic has been able to do with that cast around him, and this guy still has his team, at the top of the conference, in what's considered one of the toughest conference in the NBA. He has them at the top, without his co-star in Jamal Murray, who's been out for the entire season. So I think that puts him in the MVP conversation a little bit more than we saw last year, because last year you had Jamal Murray, he had that co-running mate to go with. This year he's been doing it with Michael Porter. Michael Porter's been out. Jamal Murray's been out. He's been doing it with guys like Jeff Green,
Monte Morris.
I mean, come on, like exactly. That's the point. And I just feel like if you take Jokic off that team, they're not even in the playoff discussions. I mean, that to me that just speaks to what he's been able to do, with so little around him.
Anybody want to contest that? Is that the consensus? Does everybody feel like Jokic?
Listen, I think Jokic done enough to win a second MVP, but don't discredit Embiid, because
that's what I'm saying.
Embiid with all the drama at the start of the season with Simmons lingering around the locker room, this guy still put up huge numbers, 30 points, 15 rebound games. I think Embiid's going to win it. I think Jokic deserves it more just because of what Kenton said. I don't want to repeat the same thing, but with a good group of guys he's done it with. But I think they're going to give it to Embiid this year, because he's like already bitching, crying about it a little bit, like, oh, I deserve it. What more do I got to do? They want to give me some recognition. So I think they're gonna give it to him. That's my take on it. But I think Jokic, hands down in my book, is the MVP this year.
Yeah,
I feel like there's multiple candidates that could win the MVP this year. Like it's a long list. Like in terms of, there was moments we felt DeRozan was the MVP. There was moments where we felt like you said LeBron might have been the MVP.
Luka's been quietly winning games.
In some cases, in some rights, I feel like Devin Booker deserves to be in that conversation, because look at their record.
Yeah,
like, 7 games above everybody in the West, and then they're like maybe 10 or 12 games above everybody in the East, you know? So
they haven't missed a beat.
That being said, but if you look at all the variables that Kenton brought up, for me, just to be a Denver Nuggets fan, it's a great time to become a Denver Nuggets fan. If I were you, the future's bright.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying the future's bright over here, because next year I'm not even focused on this year, because honestly,
it's a first round exit.
I feel like we're gonna be a gritty team that's gonna give people problems, but I don't see a championship in our future right now, like this year, you know. So
for sure,
but going down the line,
bright future out there, man, for sure.
Yeah, you think so, Sheldon? You think Sheldon Surjue? You think the Denver Nuggets bright future with Glassback, Porter Jr. and daytime Jamal Murray, like? You think that you believe in the Denver Nuggets, Sheldon?
No, I'm not saying I believe in them. I'm just saying, if healthy, they have a very bright future. If healthy, like if those guys are.
It's the West.
It is the West, but
everybody's healthy. Everybody looks good. Look at the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Warriors, Mavs, Clippers. They didn't really do that well this year, and they might get bumped by the Wolves. But hey, man, if you believe it,
we don't get swept by the Suns of Jamal Murray's playing in that series last night.
Oh, Lord.
Wow. Well,
honestly, like while we're on that subject, I mean, I'm just kind of curious. Like, how come nobody wants to go to Denver? I mean, like they look like they're a team that's on the up. I'm surprised that they haven't done anything in the free agency market
right?
because it's like,
Well, to be
it's not like they
honest,
have it's not like they're strapped into the cap. I mean, they got Jokic, Murray, and like everybody else is on like 1 year deals. I mean, it's not
Did
like
he
they're
sign?
strapped
What's his name?
there's
Yeah.
rumor that Melo might want to come back to
Oh
finish
my
his career.
Oh,
You know
come
what?
on, yo.
my
That's
God.
perfect. That's
I love
perfect.
Melo, man, but just
man.
give it a break.
honestly for a
Melo,
veteran Melo,
Off the bench.
yeah.
He's
Coming off
coming
the
back
bench,
to play
man.
off the
Tell him to come off
bench.
the bench.
Yeah, I'm
For a veteran minimum, why not?
honestly, I'm
Why not?
open for it because you need people that's willing to groom your rookie star, all stars.
Oh my
Because
God.
Michael Porter is supposed to be an all-star potentially.
Got paid,
There's a
man.
reason why we paid him that
Yeah,
much
he got
money.
paid. That's
True.
about
So,
all it.
It's
But
only right that we
all-star
get the
potential.
right people around him.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna say that I think Denver is a great team. I think the Western Conference is always going to be a tough conference to play in. I like the guys that they have there. I also think that I don't know why nobody's really giving the Warriors a fighter's chance this year. I don't know what the situation with Steph Curry is, but I mean, if he's in the lineup, him, Clay, Kuminga, friggin' Gary Payton II, like these guys have experience, they have depth, they have shooting.
That's a tough out.
It's a tough out.
That's a tough out. If Steph Curry's back 100%,
Right.
that's a tough out.
Yeah.
The issue is Clay over there, though.
Yeah, but
Well,
I
Clay's
noticed
not 100%. Draymond's not like 100. Yeah, too many questions around the Warriors.
I
That's
feel
the
like
thing.
Clay, like Clay's that guy who like was part of that original trio, like of that dynasty. And I feel
Yeah.
like that Jordan Poole's kind of like, stealing his thunder a little bit over there.
Jordan Poole's
So
great.
they're trying to find out how to mesh him in, like everything to work out, but I don't know if it's gonna work out by lifetime. So
But
Yeah.
you guys, you know what I realized? You guys forgot about one team in the East, and that's Boston. Remember from last year, they barely just made it into the playoffs, and this year they finished number 1 ranked defense in the league. Like, no one's talking about Boston. I'm surprised.
Boston is going to
Fully
make
healthy.
a good
That's
run.
a scary team too.
I love Udoka, Ime Udoka, what he did to the team. Guys,
Yeah.
we're definitely going to get into this in a little bit more depth. I know this was just a taste test. We want to give people some predictions here, but ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you tuning in. This is one of the segment that we're going to cover it. We're going to go into it in the next episode to make sure we dive in a little bit deeper into the playoffs. But I do want to thank everybody for checking out the Ant Green Show today. All of our hosts is here. It's been great to get some healthy debates. Make sure to follow all of their co-hosts. We're going to have all their social links down below. We're also going to have their predictions. We keep receipts at the Ant Green Show, so we'll have those predictions lined up, and we'll try to get everybody back on for the next episode. Tune in for then. Thank you so much. Peace.